Hey, good to see you. This video is called Playing a New Game. So presenting my 5-step guide to lacrosse, how it can be fun to play indoors or outdoors, even in the comfort of your own sitting room / lounge. It's not about lacrosse, still about poker. I'm going to talk about something we don't talk about that much, which is games that aren't Texas Hold'em. Scary, right? They really exist as well. So Texas Hold'em took over the world. It wasn't the first poker game I ever learned, actually. I learnt 7-card stud. It was the first game I ever learned. Good luck finding a game of 7-card stud these days. Not too much of it about. It's a good game. Hold'em's better. So this video is not just going to be about one particular different game, but I am going to talk about Omaha at the end of the video, and I'll explain why to you. What this video is really about is reinvigorating your poker. I know you love poker, but I also know that you're a human being, and like anything else, it can get repetitive and you can just get a little bit stale. So we're going to go through some of the reasons why you might try another game, and then some of the reasons why you might try a specific game. I've already spoilt it, it's Omaha. Anyway, let's go through this. First, so why would you play a different game? Well, first of all, if you're bored. If bored. And being bored doesn't mean you hate poker. It doesn't mean you want to give up poker. It just means you're having the same experience too often. Maybe you're on a losing run. Maybe you're on a break-even run. Maybe the same things keep happening. Maybe you've just had enough of playing 25 cent, 50 cent every day or 5 times a week. Maybe you're sick and tired of the same tournament online or down the local casino. It doesn't really matter why. The fact is, if you're bored, then you should probably make a change of some kind. And if you don't want to make a break, then playing a different game makes a lot of sense. It really can reinvigorate what you do. Now, you can even use this just as a break. So you can say, okay, I'm going to play a week of something completely different, triple draw or Badoogie or stud or Omaha or whatever, just to give myself a break, just to give myself a different experience. So I'm still getting to play, but I'm not worrying so much about the results. Maybe I'll drop all the way down in limit and just play for fun and get some of the fun back into my poker. That is as good a reason as any to try a different game. And it will help you. Playing different games does help your main game because it just gives you a chance to have a step back, makes you think about fundamentals. You'll find whatever poker game you play, a lot of your core skills will cross over. So I really do recommend this, especially if you are feeling a little bit bored. Another great reason to try another game is in search of cash. In search of cash. In search of wins, let's say, because I know that in poker we keep score with money, but you can be motivated by cash if you're trying to play and get a second income. You can also be motivated by cash just to hit a big one, but just winning or winning more or winning tournaments can be motivation enough. And it's definitely true that you may very well find easier games in certain formats of the game when you swap over. So for example, when I first learned Omaha a few years ago, I used to play half Omaha, half Hold'em tournaments. There aren't that many of them around, but every time I saw one, I would jump in, and I still will do if I see one when I'm online, because you get so many players that are Hold'em players who are just giving it a go, and you had a massive edge, not as big these days, but still can be appreciable in the Omaha section. So that's one example. So just in general, it makes sense to try and find softer games always. One of the ways to find softer games is to try different game types. If you can become a specialist in 1 or 2 games that aren't Hold'em, then it's possible that you could have an edge. And it's certainly possible that the game at your equivalent buy-in could be softer. You need to kind of test these things, but it's definitely worth looking around. If your win rate has gone down, or you feel like the games are getting tougher and you don't feel like putting in another 3 months of study to Hold'em right now, it may be good for your win rate to jump into another game. It's also a great challenge, of course, to jump into another game. That's number 3. If you just want a challenge. Our progress at any activity kind of does, well, it goes in spates, right? You hit a plateau and then you go better, plateau, learning, better. But you improve the most at the beginning, because at the beginning you don't know anything. Now with Hold'em, if you've been playing for a few years, your progress is going to be that much slower, so it's not as exciting. If I said to you, go and play Omaha from scratch, you've never played before, you're going to start at, 1 cent, 2 cent, or $1 tournaments, or whatever, or even free play money. And you're going to see improvement really fast. You're going to be able to go through those early levels really quickly. So that is a fun challenge to see how quickly you can build a bankroll in a new game. It's a fun challenge just to master a new game. Think back to when you first discovered Hold'em and wanted to know everything about it. That challenge can really motivate you through a really fun 6 months or year of playing and learning a new game. And who knows, it might become your full-time game. So the challenge is a really great reason to learn another game. Now, let's look at how you might do that or what the other games might be. First of all, before you decide to jump into Omaha or Stud or Badugi or whatever, consider a different variant of Hold'em. So different variant. So one of the reasons that you might be bored or lacking in challenge is just that you've been doing the same thing for too long. And maybe you still love Hold'em, you just don't love this variation. So maybe it's time to jump from tournaments to cash or cash to tournaments, or obviously sit and goes. Maybe it's time to play some heads up or some shorter handed poker, which can be a little bit more fun. Maybe you need to play some online instead of live all the time, or live instead of online all the time. Consider just changing it up in a different way in order to spark yourself back into life, because it is so easy to get into habits with poker. And when we make a change, even if it's a smaller change, that can really reinvigorate you. All right, so let's say that's not applicable and you do want to learn a new game. Which game should you learn? Well, it's totally up to you, but the one that I decided to learn, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I'm not very good at timelines, something like that, was Omaha. So I'm going to do a little Omaha commercial for you. Learn Omaha. There's a ton of reasons why. Personally, it's my favorite poker game, even though I coach a lot of Hold'em because that's what people like to play. But you are robbing yourself of a ton of excitement, fun, and a completely different and unique challenge. So here's the good news about Omaha. Your Hold'em skills will translate. Now, it is not the same game. There's new stuff to learn, but the format of the game will immediately be very obvious to you because it's the same as Hold'em, flop, turn, river, right? You get slightly more cards, you may know that, in your hand. So that changes everything, but the structure of the game is the same. So it will be very familiar to you. It's very easy for you to pick up exactly the mechanics of an Omaha game, and then you start to peel back its layers and discover that there's a lot more to it than initially meets the eye, and that's where the fun and the challenge comes in. Now, it's also a much more exciting game than Hold'em. You can make many more combinations because you've got 4 cards or even more cards than you have in Hold'em, and the equities in hands run a lot closer. So there are a lot of times post-flop where you have enough equity to continue, and so your money goes in a lot more often, you're in action a lot more, so it is normally a much more exciting game than Hold'em. In fact, after you've played Omaha for a while, it can be quite difficult to go back to Hold'em because it seems so dull. Now here's the health warning. Omaha games play bigger than Hold'em games. Because of the closeness of the equities in the hands, because you need to put your money in more often, there's a lot more, your money's at risk more often, and there's a lot more variation in variance in Omaha. So the exact maths are difficult to pin down because it depends on how aggressive the game is. But in general, I think Omaha in real terms plays 2 or 3 times bigger than Hold'em. So a 25 cent, 50 cent Omaha game will be closer to a 1-2 Hold'em game than it will to a 25, 50 cent Hold'em game, if that makes sense. It plays much bigger. That means your money's going to go up and down a lot more, and it means you need more money to play a certain tournament level or cash level of Omaha as opposed to Hold'em. So be aware of that, right? If you don't like the variance and the up and downs of poker generally, then Omaha is probably not going to be the answer for you. But if you like the challenge of figuring out an opponent's hand and hand reading, figuring out your possibilities, figuring out equities, if you enjoy, being aggressive at the right times, all of that good stuff, if you enjoy post-flop poker, then Omaha is really going to be fun for you. I cannot tell you how much fun it's been for me, and it's been extremely lucrative for me over the years. There's no reason why it can't be for you as well. Now, Omaha games have got tougher over the last few years. However, people still make big mistakes in Omaha, and especially at the lower levels when you first jump in, you're going to find a lot of bad play, and by just mastering the basics and then applying your Hold'em skills, you're going to be able to do well relatively quickly. So that is a ton of fun. I cannot recommend Omaha enough. It's my favorite poker game. I made this video just so I could bang on about it for a bit. If I make 1 or 2 people watching this jump in and try it, my mission will be a success. So I really hope that your poker is always fun for you. That's why I've made this video. I never want it to be boring for you. I know that I am really about training when I make these videos and training courses for you. However, it's not just about training, it's also about enjoyment. And if that's not happening for you, make a change, right? Change the variant, change your attitude to what you're doing, or change your game. And if you jump into Omaha, there's a decent chance you'll never look back, unless you have one of those downswing sessions early on, and then you might hate me and throw your computer out. Do drop down in limits, please. Remember what I said. It's a fantastic game though, and well worth your time. All right, if you've enjoyed this video, let me know. Give it a Facebook like or a social media share. Do leave a comment on the video. If you've got any questions about Omaha, or anything that isn't clear to you, even if it's a really basic question, it doesn't matter, or a strategy question, I don't mind, put it in the video underneath here and I will endeavor to answer. Like I said, if I get a few people playing Omaha through this video, it will be worth it. I hope you're enjoying your poker. If there's anything we can help you with, let us know. support@transformmypoker is how you do it, and you can use that email address for details of our courses. I'll send you another video very soon, and I'll see you when I talk to you in that one.